able to bring some sanity to the system. Yes. Well, at the bottom strip of the paper, National Assembly to OK 22.7 trillion naira debt recurring restructuring on Tuesday. A slain lawyer buried, cleric consoles family, 13 billion naira drugs, military hardware seized at Lagos Airport on pages 4 and 5. I am very concerned about the military hardware.
It's an issue to be concerned about because we don't know. Yes, it says here that the hardware was seized, but we don't know how many so far has infiltrated the country or the system so far. But on this, we are grateful to the Lagos Airport security for apprehending this the owners and the hardware for seizing them. But we want the security altogether to do more work to know how many has infiltrated the system.
Well, still on the Punch newspaper this morning, subsidy, federal government borrowing to import fuel, says minister. Federal government borrowing money to import fuel, says minister. That's you can see the Minister of Finance there at thumbnail there, Zainab Ahmed. On page 22, you can get that story there. And then $1 billion spent to recover territories seized by terrorists. That's coming from President Muhammadu Buhari. Well, if we spent that amount to recover territories seized by a terrorist, well, it is good reporting, but I don't think it has translated to reality because, of course, we still have some
territories, yes, seized by these terrorists. But then the fact that our security is still this poor, and that even as an administration of the presidency, I don't think they're doing enough. I don't think they're doing enough because spending this amount to recover is really terrible. Well, how about spending the amount to safeguard the territories in the first place? So it goes to show to what we say about the governor being more reactive than they are proactive.
Well, we hope that the government now takes initiative to be able to start doing what they need to do to solve the problems. All right. So beside the nameplates there, the last story on the Punch newspaper, over 500,000 security personnel to man polling booths. Over 500,000 security personnel to man polling booth. Very, very nice one there, I tell you. Having people about that number, half a million naira. Well, I love money, 500,000 security personnel manning polling booths.
But then what we hope is that these people do not get compromised at the end of the day.
Well, that's that on the Punch newspaper this morning.
Yeah, we're moving on quickly to the Nation newspaper, and the headline says, Atiku plans sale of nation's assets to allies, says Tinubu. There's been a back and forth between Tinubu's camp and Atiku's camp lately. Yes. And that's what we still have about the PCC's allegation of Atiku's, corruption thing and all of that. All right, APC candidate urges Kwara to sustain political freedom. Uzodinma Remi Tinubu rally Southeast women. That's more of that story is on page 5. And we can see the rally pictures right there. Just below, the bottom strip of the paper says Senate adjourns for campaigns. That's on page 7. Lagos lawyer Rahim buried. Well, we hope that her soul rests in peace, that the officer that was involved in the killing is, convicted of his crime. And that's on page 5.
Well, we really hope that that officer is convicted because it should serve as a deterrent for other people.
Yes.
When that incident happened, the way the Lagos State Police Command responded was to transfer all the police officers in that divisional police headquarters, the Ajah divisional headquarters, which for me I felt was just an emergency response. It was not a well thought out response. It was just to appease public outcry at the moment. Those persons, if you take a bad wine and pour it in a new bottle, the wine is still bad regardless of where you're putting it. You have to change the wine. It's about the system. It's not even about the officers now. They are the same everywhere. I mean, from their looks, I was at the Freedom Park yesterday for a political event. You needed to see the way the police officers were looking. Funnily, they were the anti-thuggery unit. They were looking
like,
yes, they were looking just like the persons they were supposed to, stop from creating nuisance in the society. Bloodshot eyes, cigarette in hand, in public.
wow.
That kind of person, you just have to step on them alone.
And
There's the risk of being
there'll
shot.
be an aggravation.
So you have to overhaul this. And it was in public. They were there. Their superior officers were there looking at them. I mean, they keep giving excuses of you have to blend into ours. I've seen FBI officers go undercover. I have a couple of friends there. I've seen people in the CIA. I've seen people even in the DSS go undercover. They don't look that ragged. They don't look that, and they don't act that anyhow.
But at least, even if you have to do that once in a while, it doesn't have to be in the public eye. It has to be an undercover response,
Yes.
to something.
You don't just act. I mean, it's
like
a
you
very
said.
annoying thing,
All right, just below the nameplates, governors to engage CBN on Naira redesign. This issue keeps, coming on. Nigerians rejecting the money, and then the banks are still dispensing old notes. So governors are to engage CBN on Naira redesign.
Well, a lot of things have been said about that particular story and why the governors are interested in the new Naira notes, and that's because the time frame is too short to return the old notes, and some of them have stockpiled the old notes for February and March, the elections. And so what they would only want, I suppose, is an extension of the deadline. The deadline is January 31st. That's in about 13 days or thereabout. Yes, 13 days thereabout. But I'm sure that they want to seek an extension so that they can at least spend the money they have for it. I mean, I saw a 200 Naira note. Is it 200 Naira note or 500 from 2008? It was looking splendid, very beautiful and fresh and crisp. And I was asking how, where, from how, So some of the issues that, of course, they would want to discuss.
Initially, this was one of the issues that the CBN wanted to combat or go against in the first place, because 2008 to now, you're still having that note.
Even 2015, that's about 7 years ago.
Exactly.
I mean,
so that's still a long way away. All right. Just beside that, INEC won't succumb to security threats. At Chatham House, Yakubu says no shift of polls. And INEC has said this before and is still saying this again. Does that mean that there are cases of threats, to the INEC and to the officials, or even, the chairman, for this to be recurring, to be coming up every time, saying that INEC wants to come to security threats? Or is that to assure the people that they won't succumb to threats because the polls will still hold, instead of, being postponed or cancelled as earlier presumed? Well,
there is really an existing threat to the polls, and that's the attack on INEC facilities, some of the pocket of violence we've been experiencing across the nation. These are things that are threatening the possibility of the polls. It's a stark reality that we have to face and not run away from. But at the same time, INEC has shown that it is ready. They've been rebuilding their infrastructure, making backup plans. I saw some of the backup BVAS machines that they brought. I think we had it on the show the other time. And so I like the fact that the chairman is coming out to try to shore up public confidence in the commission and say, look, amidst all the threats, amidst the unlikelihood of, we will still go ahead with the election. And that's what we need in this time, and that's why I was saying some time ago on the show that politicians also need to toe this line. There's no need to whip up sentiment or to try to make people feel, there's a lot. Yes, there is a problem, but we must play the role of mediators. We must play the role of calmness and ensure that people understand that these threats are not going to overcome us. We will overcome them.
All right, above the nameplate, Buhari, Boko Haram sponsors aim was to split Nigeria. Of course, that's obvious. and that the fact that Boko Haram sponsors have been doing that to, raise a lot of aggravations, yes, and to raise, some sort of unrests across the country is looking like that's what it was supposed to, to do. But the fact that the presidency has been able to identify this, they've not been able to identify the real thing, which is the sponsors of Boko Haram itself, and even some faces of, the Boko Haram, that is some of this, terrorists, I would say, as, in the past it's been said that some have been apprehended, some were killed. So those that were apprehended, what was the outcome of the apprehension? What happened at the end of it?
Well, that question can only be answered by the presidency and security agencies. Well,
So
it
those are the
baffles me.
questions we have,
It baffles
yes.
me, actually, that the government keeps saying that we have a list of people who are sponsoring,
Yes.
what's it called now? Terrorism. We have a list of people who are doing this, that. Okay, make the list public. They can't do that for obvious reasons. For obvious reasons. They say that when a bird starts to sing, you will hear different things. All they need to do is just pick up one of those
them,
persons, and
exactly.
then that person spills, and then they probably see that, oh, okay, it is well.
It is well. We end that on that note. Don't behave like ASO, Ngige tells new union Konwa. I find this...
I'm tempted to tell Konwa, welcome to the club.
Exactly.
They thought they were doing something really
Yes.
nice, but
the end
welcome
of the
to
day.
the club.
Why we upgraded Emmanuel Alayade College to varsity. China's population drops by 850,000 in last survey. China's population drops by 850,000 in last survey.
Well,
quite
that's the
impressive.
world's most populous country.
Yes.
And they've been imposing very strict population control measures, cutting down on the number of children you can have and all that. I think it's important because the way the world is expanding, we've hit 8 billion now. We hit 8 billion last year, and the projection is on course for 8.5 and 9 billion thereabout. And unfortunately, the earth is not expanding physically. So you're having more people, the same resources, the same structures, everything is the same, but the people keep increasing. And that means there will be more pressure on the earth itself. Talk about climate change, more people driving cars, more people smoking, more people moving around, more people building houses, affecting the ground,
Yes.
the structure of the structural integrity of the soil. And so it's quite commendable that China's population is dropping. We hope that
it's quite commendable on China's part,
yes.
indeed. But I'm thinking of my home country, Nigeria. If we should adopt something, well, we should learn from China. Probably.
we should. If you look at the number of children on the streets, the children who are beggars, it doesn't even stand to reason that a man who, for instance, without any contempt for any job, but a man who, for instance, is a commercial motorcyclist, you don't make up to 500,000 naira in a month, I suppose. You have 8 children. You're living in just a room. Your wife has a shop where she makes hair, a hairstylist. The local one, not a big scale, big time hairstylist. How do you want to cope? You just put those children through unnecessary hardship and all of that. And then you see the wealthy people having just one, just two, just one, just
Exactly.
two. So, well, that's how it is.
Yeah, because I would say that it's not even about the job now, because there are some corporate jobs that are not even paying enough.
Yes.
But when you have this, number of children that your income cannot exactly cater for, it becomes a problem. So we need to look into that, individuals now before the government, because we don't know if the government will make any policy on that. But we're talking about individuals now, cutting on the number of children, especially as, having children according to what you earn. If it's just one you can cater for, I don't think it's a big deal at all. You can just have those and be fine. We need to live fine, because even the economy is not supporting that right now. All right, the last story is below the nameplate. The red strip says, President seeks Senate's confirmation for 7 ICPC commissioners. That's on page 7 of the Nation newspaper. And that will be all on the Nation newspaper this morning.
Well, away from the Nation newspaper, we'll move on to the Daily Trust. Daily Trust newspaper this morning. Banner headline is on security. Boko Haram spent $1 billion to retrieve territories, as according to Buhari, says terrorism financiers want to split Nigeria. Obviously, that's what those people want to do.
Yes.
Split the country in two.
Of course.
Well, we hope that...
Because when you have a country rising against itself, where you have outsiders infiltrating the country,
Yes.
of course, that's the aim. That's always the end game, to split the country, to make it, ungovernable, to make it, divided against itself. That's just what it means all the time.
I hope that the government can bring those people to book. And
Soon enough.
Soon enough. Well, below that story, INEC to conduct mock accreditation ahead of polls. INEC to conduct mock accreditation ahead of polls. A Paris club refund court summons Emefiele over $53 million debt. Judgment debts are debts incurred by government or government agencies when they go to court. The court awards a particular amount against the government, and the government has to pay. So that's about $53 million judgment debt. Oh, interesting to see Emefiele's position on that. Youth burn Niger police station to protest Catholic priests killing. Page 6. Again, this is all shades of wrong. You cannot address violence with violence. Exactly. A priest was burnt to death on Sunday by 3 a.m. And in order to register your displeasure, you burn down a police station. I mean, it's two wrongs don't make it right.
Yeah.
We know that people can be aggrieved, but you can't take laws into your own hands. No matter how slow you think the justice system is, just wait for it.
Yes. And the fact that we always, or most often, attack those that are supposed to be protecting us is something to worry about. Because when you attack them, you're one way or the other, yes, they're sworn to protect you, but one way or the other, they also get aggrieved. And sometimes might even look away when you're being punished by others, by terrorists or something. Yes, it is their duty, but it is also our duty to maintain caution, to always, uphold the peace as well as citizens. So it is very important that we don't always respond to violence with violence.
It's not good to respond to violence with violence. Vigilantes injure bride's eye during wedding party. Unfortunate incident on page 26 of the Daily Trust newspaper. Race to National Assembly. Tiosa Obanikoro's son, Banky W, set for replay battle. That's on page 13 of the Daily Trust newspaper. Up above the banner headline, below the nameplate, Nigeria to raise 400 billion naira per month through bond sales. United Nations, ECOWAS warn Nigeria against election violence. Massive resignation hits BBC Hausa. And as usual, I'd like to remind you of the 11 schoolgirls of FGC Benin Yari who have now spent 582 days in captivity. One student of Bethel Baptist High School, Kujama, who has spent 544 days in captivity. Well, that's that on the Daily Trust newspaper. We hope that those children are rescued alongside others who are still in captivity.
All right, moving on quickly to The Guardian. We're just going to brush through this morning. The banner headline says, uneasy calm at CBN as officials grapple with integrity issues. CBN DSS downplay, dismiss Emefiele's arrest saga as speculative. Officials not in DSS custody, Apex Bank insists. ADI, integrity of system completely compromised. Yes, we've been talking about the integrity of the CBN, being surrounded by a lot of controversies. And here they're saying that it's completely compromised. And then that the fact that the CBN and DSS are downplaying and dismissing Emefiele's arrest is really something. And then, you know, they're saying it's speculative, but that's what we're left to do, speculating what's happening, you know, what's really going on, what's the true picture, because we really haven't had a true picture. But I guess in the days to come, the true picture would unfold.
Well, my problem is the commando and Gestapo style of apprehending people that we've seen in Nigeria. Oftentimes, these people are not wanted criminals. They are just members of the society who needs to answer certain questions. Going to their houses in the middle of the night, laying siege to their houses. In 2022, Okorocha's house was besieged by EFCC. Justice Onogen is a very good example. Justice Odili, Mary Odili is another example, you know. And we begin to